She was more than just a pretty face. She was a spark, unpredictable, untamed, unforgettable. Gia Carangi wasn't born into glamour. She didn't come from a polished Hollywood background or grow up with the dream of becoming a model. What made her rise to fame so extraordinary was that she never chased it, fame chased her. And when it caught her, it both elevated her and devoured her. Before the world even knew what a supermodel truly was, Gia had already become one, not just in name, but in legend. Gia Marie Carangi was born on January 29, 1960, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her early life was marked by instability. Her parents fought constantly, and their marriage was filled with turmoil. As a child, Gia was highly sensitive, often caught in the emotional crossfire between her mother and father. When her mother eventually left the family, Gia was just 11 years old. That moment, the abandonment by the woman she loved most, left a permanent scar on her heart. Throughout her life, she would struggle with intense feelings of loneliness, rejection, and a desperate need to feel wanted. In her teenage years, Gia found solace in music and photography. She became part of a group of kids called the Bowie Kids, fans of David Bowie who dressed androgynously and lived on the edges of society. It was here she found her first sense of belonging. Gia didn't fit into any traditional box, not in school, not in her family, not in society. But her unique beauty and raw energy were impossible to ignore. She stood out. And someone noticed. By the time she was 17, Gia had moved to New York City, where the fashion world was beginning to open up to new and unconventional faces. She was quickly signed by Wilhelmina Models, and almost overnight, Gia became the face of a generation. Her eyes told stories. Her presence in front of a camera was electric. She wasn't just posing, she was living inside the lens. Top photographers like Francesco Scavollo and Chris von Wangenheim adored her. Designers lined up to book her. She appeared in Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and countless high-profile campaigns. She was on billboards, in magazines, on runways. The world was watching, and Gia was shining. But behind that brilliance was a young woman spiraling. The modeling world, especially in the late 70s and early 80s, was glamorous on the surface, but it was cutthroat, cold, and often deeply exploitative. Gia, already wounded from childhood, struggled to handle the pressure. She felt isolated. The attention didn't heal her insecurities, it magnified them. And in the shadows of the fashion world, drugs were everywhere. At first, it was just parties. Then it became a coping mechanism. And eventually, it became a lifeline. Heroin entered her world and quickly took over. Gia's addiction grew fast and furious. She began missing shoots, getting into trouble on set, disappearing for days. Photographers who once adored her became frustrated. Agencies began to back away. Wilhelmina Cooper, the legendary agent who had first taken Gia under her wing, tried to help. She even treated Gia like a daughter. But when Wilhelmina died of cancer in 1980, Gia lost the last person in the industry who truly cared about her as a human being. After that, things got worse. Much worse. She attempted rehab multiple times, including stays at the Eagleville Hospital and other treatment centers. But sobriety was fleeting. Without strong support systems or proper therapy, Gia continued to fall back into old patterns. To make money during her darkest periods, she took jobs far removed from modeling, selling jeans, working at small shops, even turning to sex work at one point. The girl who had once graced the cover of Vogue was now living on the margins of society, nearly unrecognizable. Then came the illness. In the early 1980s, AIDS was a mysterious, terrifying disease. It carried immense stigma and little hope. Gia contracted HIV, likely from shared needles during her drug use. At the time, there was little public understanding and virtually no treatment. Her condition worsened, and she was admitted to the hospital in 1986, where she would spend her final days. The once beloved supermodel died on November 18, 1986, at just 26 years old. There was no major public statement. No tribute from the fashion world. It was as though she had been erased, forgotten by the very industry that once couldn't get enough of her. But Gia's story didn't die with her. Over time, her life has become a symbol of beauty, vulnerability, and the dangers of a world that too often discards the broken. In 1998, HBO released a biopic titled Gia, starring Angelina Jolie. The film reignited interest in her life and introduced a new generation to her tragic brilliance. Jolie's performance, raw and intense, captured the spirit of a woman who was never just a model. Gia was poetry in motion, a wounded soul with a warrior's face, someone who loved deeply, felt everything, and burned out far too soon. Today, Gia Carangi is remembered not just for the stunning photographs she left behind, but for the powerful human story behind the lens. She reminds us that fame is not a cure for pain. That beauty does not protect us from self-destruction. That even the brightest stars can fall. And yet, in remembering her, we honor the complexity of her life. She was flawed. She was fierce. She was unforgettable. Gia Carangi paid the price of fame, with her heart, her health, and ultimately, her life. But in doing so, she became more than a model. She became a legend.